Donald Trump loves his dictators. From Vladimir Putin to Kim Jong-un, and now the Syrian president and Mohammed bin Salman. We're going to go through all that today, but first I want to show you a video of an American who happens to stand up for sexual assault victims and how she ends up getting treated by our American president.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me.
Now, I'm no big fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I disagree very much with her past, her history, her voting, and the fact that she fell in line with Donald Trump. However, I do give props for someone that stands up for what's right. And so when Donald Trump wanted to bring the Syrian president into the White House, there's a few details that you might want to know about.
This past Monday, on the Marines' 250th anniversary, when he honored the new Syrian president, who is an Al-Qaeda terrorist and was wanted by our government for years with a $10 million bounty up until March of this year. I very much am against that. I think that was very hurtful to the great men and women who served over in the Middle East and were sent there, and many of them that were killed and injured and live with PTSD to this day from fighting Al-Qaeda. So there's things I disagree with, and I'm allowed to do so.
She certainly is allowed to do so. I wish that fight had been there for the American people for a much longer period of time, but I can't fault people for coming to their senses. Now, there are a few images and videos of the Syrian president that I am not going to show you on this channel. If you'd like to look them up and find them, they are out there to be found. However, let's see how Donald Trump treated this terrorist in our White House.
We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts, but he has had a rough past, and I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
Cool. I think this post sums it up pretty well. Trump meets with Syrian President Ahmed Al-Sharaa after U.S. removes him from terrorist list. One U.S. terrorist meeting another on U.S. soil. The guy was the leader of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Gross. There are times that the outrage becomes so unbelievable, almost grating on your soul. And I think obviously that is the message. That is what we're supposed to get. We're supposed to be tired of this. These things are supposed to be normalized, where insane shit like this happens all the time, and you get beat over the head with it so much that it just becomes part of everyday life. There is a new impeachable offense every single day, it seems like, at least weekly, if not daily. There's criminal activity, there's corruption at so many levels. And I don't want my lack of screaming into the mic to be taken as any type of endorsement of this. This is insane. That's why I bring it to you. They palled around a bit. They were besties. They were friends. Donald Trump sprayed cologne on him, gave him gifts. They gave each other gifts. They gave each other other things probably, but I can't say those things on here. Who knows what happens? I'm not saying it did or didn't, but it could have. One thing that Donald Trump did joke about with the president of Syria was how many wives he has. Ooh, Donald Trump would love that. All the women, all the wives, all the things. Check this out. This is how JD Vance and RFK Jr. spoke about it at a summit in DC.
The president met the president of Syria, Al-Sharaa, in the Oval Office a couple of days ago, And, he asked him, he's like, well, how many wives do you have? And it's just like, oh, what an amazing question. Amazing comedic timing. There are layers to it. There's like a meta humor to it. It's just, anyway, but we got a lot of good humor in the cabinet.
Woo, so funny. Terrorists, multiple wives in the White House. That's our democracy right now. It's ridiculous. Then Donald Trump had Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, in the White House not long after. Let's see how they got along.
Senator Lee, Mr. President.
Mr. President. And Trump doesn't give a fist pump. I grabbed that hand. I don't give a hell where that hand's been. I grabbed that hand. When remember Biden? He travels for 20 hours, gets out, and he gives a fist bump. No. When you get out of the plane and you got the future king and the man who's one of the most respected people in the world, you shake his hand. You don't give him a fist bump, right? We don't want to ask you about that, but I can't imagine you were thrilled. You were like a little bit surprised. He's a fantastic guy. You don't do that. Yeah, please.
He says he's a fantastic guy. Wonder if there's anything that we need to know about Mohammed bin Salman, and if there's any information out there that might be important to know. From Occupy Democrats, the Washington Post unleashes a scathing takedown of Trump after he smeared their murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi during a playdate with the brutal crown prince of Saudi Arabia. This is just a taste of what the history books will have to say about Donald. The United States government often advances its national interests by working with nasty people, and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is one of the nastiest. It's one thing, however regrettable, to deal reluctantly with him. President Donald Trump's performance at the White House Tuesday was something else entirely. Weak, crass, and of no strategic benefit to America. The opinion piece was entitled, "Things Happen," a direct quote from Trump's Oval Office meeting yesterday with MBS. When asked about the assassination, in which Khashoggi was murdered and dismembered with a bone saw, Trump dismissively said that things happen, and that Khashoggi was an extremely controversial man who a lot of people didn't like. Trump falsely claimed that MBS knew nothing about that, when in fact he ordered the killing. The president also chided a reporter for trying to embarrass our guests by asking a question. The disgraceful remarks were a major PR boon to MBS, and are rendered all the more shameful by the fact that Khashoggi was a US resident. These distortions dishonor Khashoggi's legacy, stand at odds with the facts, and are beneath the office of the president. They explained that Khashoggi's reporting for their outlet allowed him to stand strong against the Saudi regime's repressiveness at home and recklessness abroad. The reality is that while Trump advocates peace through strength, he showed nothing but debility, they wrote. No doubt other dictators took note. Legitimizing and defending Mohammed this way will embolden him and his ilk to mistreat not just journalists, but any Americans, knowing that they'll probably face no real consequences. The board slammed Trump for greeting MBS cost-free with an honor guard of black horses, herald trumpeters, and fighter jets. Forgetting Mohammed's brutality and Khashoggi's warnings is a choice, and Trump made the wrong one, they concluded. At the root of all this horror is, as usual, Trump's insatiable greed. He doesn't want to upset bin Salman because Saudi Arabia has proven to be an incredibly lucrative personal partner for his family. The Saudis poured $2 billion into Jared Kushner's firm, and that's just one of the deals that we know about. Until a full forensic investigation is undertaken, there's no telling how much the Trumps have made by buddying up to a murderous tyrant. Trump's favorite kind of person. Which is why so many people are giving mad props to ABC's Mary Bruce for asking the hard-hitting questions and not backing down.
Is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, The U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business.
That's what journalism should look like in America. We shouldn't kowtow to presidents. We shouldn't back away from them. We shouldn't bend the knee, kiss the rings. We shouldn't do all of that. We need to ask the real questions. We need to be asking these questions. And that question has opened a whole can of worms, including this. Bob Woodward posting that I pressed Trump on MBS's role in the Khashoggi killing during a tape-recorded interview on January 22nd, 2020. I've gotten involved very much, Trump said. I know everything about the whole situation. I saved his ass, Trump said. That's what happened. Saved whose ass? MBS, Trump said. They were coming down on him very strongly, but I was able to get Congress to leave him alone. So Donald Trump saved MBS. Donald Trump quieted the investigation on MBS and the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. He says so himself. But it's not going away that easily. Here you have Representative Eugene Vindman, who sat on Trump's National Security Council staff. There's a handful of phone calls that he reviewed, including the phone call with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky that got Donald Trump impeached in his first term. He had this to say about Donald Trump and Mohammed bin Salman.
Speaker, given the president's disturbing and counterfactual defense of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman today, I feel compelled to speak up on behalf of Mr. Khashoggi and his family and the American people. During my tenure on Trump's White House National Security Council staff, I reviewed many of Trump's calls with foreign leaders. Of all the calls I reviewed, 2 stood out as the most problematic. The first we all know, it was between President Trump and President Zelensky, which resulted in President Trump's first impeachment. The second was between President Trump and Mohammed bin Salman. After the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, I reviewed a call between the president and the Saudi Crown Prince. The American people and the Khashoggi family deserve to know what was said on that call. If history is any guide, the receipts will be shocking. I call on the president to release that transcript. And honestly, does anyone believe that the Zelensky call was the only problematic conversation Donald Trump had with a foreign leader? Thank you. I yield back.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if that call was problematic, would you? Not surprised at all. And there's a little bit of clarification that he makes when he spoke on CNN.
But what are you suggesting happened on that call?
Well, look, as I mentioned last night on the floor of the House of Representatives, that there were 2 calls among many with foreign leaders that particularly disturbed me. And one we know was with President Zelensky of Ukraine, the extortion call, and that resulted in the president's first impeachment. This was the second one that really bothered me because this was about the murder of an American resident, a Virginia resident, and a Washington Post reporter. And the president, the conversation he had, obviously I can't get into the details, but it was counterfactual to what the president was claiming last night, what U.S. security and intelligence services have known and stated publicly was the involvement of MBS. And it's time that the president come clean. And
I know that I'm curious what was on that phone call. And if I read in between the lines, it sounds like there was some mention of culpability. Will Donald Trump release that phone call, release the transcripts of it? Well, as he was asked before, if there's nothing there, why not release it? If it was totally innocent, release it. As always, if you like my channel, if you like my delivery, then like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.